chiropractors, doctors, pain doctors, interventional pain docs, orthopedic surgeons, neurologists, any provider in the PI space, welcome to today's live stream, because what we're going to cover today are TBI screening protocols that are giving the attorneys the ammunition to win. If you want to stand out in the personal injury market, you got to offer more value into the market. Treating sprain, strain, whiplash is just not enough because, according to the insurance companies, sprains, strains resolve on their own without chiropractic intervention, therefore they deny claims. And according to defense attorneys that I know, well, former defense attorneys that are now plaintiff attorneys, and the plaintiff attorneys that I'm talking to, and the chiropractors that have nailed down a solid TBI protocol are getting their bills paid in full. They're helping the attorneys maximize the case for policy limits and getting future medicals. And companies are settling these cases. They're getting very little pushback on head injuries and brain injuries when done correctly. And yes, this can start in your office if you're a chiropractor, if you learn how to have a TBI protocol that meets a Daubert challenge, meaning proper medical FDA approved objective test interpreted by the appropriate medical professional. That meets a Daubert challenge. You can do the screening test, chiropractors, but you got to have it interpreted by the proper medical specialist. So hang out with me here for about 5 minutes, and I'm going to talk about things that you can do in your office to screen for traumatic brain injury or concussion that don't involve you spending thousands of dollars for fancy equipment, helmets with electrodes on them. You do not have to do that. My name is Mark Slater. My company is Prime Spine Consulting. I've been in the personal injury space since I graduated from Life College 100 years ago in 1998. I help doctors in the personal injury space not only market, any doctor can market, but making your practice more marketable, that's the key. Attorneys are looking to work with chiropractors that can add more value to the market and on the case. Because if you're just a sprain strain doctor, you sound like everybody else. But if you have a TBI protocol, we're going to talk about what that looks like. So let's talk about now TBI screening protocols that are giving the attorneys the ammunition to win. So at the bare level, you should have the Rivermead Post-Concussion Questionnaire in everyone's paperwork. Whether they're a personal injury patient, cash patient, commercial insurance patient, they should at least fill out that post-concussion questionnaire. You can Google that and download it from Google. Rivermead Post-Concussion Questionnaire. Slide it into everyone's paperwork. If they're circling, it's based on numbers 1 through 4. Headaches, confusion, dizziness, lack of sleep, irritability. If they're circling high numbers, this may indicate they may have a traumatic brain injury. Send them for a brain MRI. You can send them for a DTI. Those can show you structural deficits in the brain that may be impairing their life, okay? But what if a DTI, MRI, or even a CT scan comes back negative? Those just show structural abnormalities of the brain. The patient can still have cognitive deficits from a TBI, lack of focus, confusion. So after the Rivermead Post-Concussion Questionnaire, doctors like you chiropractors can do a BESS test, a VOMS test. These are little balance tests that you can do in the office, and you can go to impact.com and look at how to do those tests in your office that involve you spending no money on any special equipment. So there's not one all-encompassing objective test that's going to say, yes, this person has a concussion. It's a series of tests, a series of objective findings backed up by the proper specialist, medical specialist, that meets a Daubert standard in most states, okay? So after a BESS test and a VOMS test, those are objective tests. You can have and screen your patient for oculomotor deficits. My clients, I recommend this RightEye system, where they look into a computer, it's firing LED lights in their eyes. It's measuring horizontal movements, horizontal saccades, vertical saccades, vertical smooth pursuits, circular movements. It's following a ball up and down the screen, and it's recording their eye movements. Oculomotor deficits are the #1 symptom of a traumatic brain injury, and that comes from Dr. Adam DiDio, a board-certified neurologist who interprets our RightEye test for my clients. Okay, so that's another objective test. That's just checking oculomotor deficits. So you have a Rivermead, now you have a BESS test, now you have a VOMS test, now a RightEye test to determine oculomotor deficits, which is the #1 symptom of a possible concussion. And next you can do a cognitive exam. There's a lot of them out there. My clients use the impact test, but there's SportGate, Cryos, several other screening tests. It's just a screening test. So a patient would take this in your office on a laptop. You can buy tests from Impact. My clients get a significant discount with my relationship with Impact. Impact has been doing cognitive tests for the NFL, NBA, NHL, NASCAR. They've done 25 million cognitive tests across the country, and it is a reliable screening test that is trusted in courts of law based on real life experience of my clients using this. Now, after the patient takes that impact test in your office, we don't want them taking it at home. Here's a question that could come up at a deposition. Dr. Slater, are you sure, or how can you be sure that this patient took this test? Did they take it in your office? Well, if they didn't, how can you be sure your patient took this impact test? Their uncle, their cousin, their son, their daughter, they could have taken the test. So I suggest you proctor the impact test in your office, 20 or 30 minutes for the impact test. After that impact test is complete, this is the important part. The data is the data. I get that. But as a chiropractor, it is out of your scope to interpret that data. Even if you're a chiropractic neurologist, this, in the court of law, in personal injury, does not meet a Daubert challenge. If the defense challenges your report, your findings on this test, they're going to throw it out. It doesn't meet a Daubert challenge. So in my program, we provide you with a medical neuropsychologist who's going to do a telemedicine visit with your patient. They will assess the impact test of your patient and give you a full report with their autograph confirming the data that it is likely this person has a TBI based on the data obtained from the impact cognitive test. So now, if you do it the way we do it, you have a Rivermead, you have a BESS test, you have a VOMS test, you have a RightEye test, you have a DTI, MRI, a CT scan, which can prove structural abnormalities. Maybe one of those is positive, maybe two, maybe none. It's fine. Now we're checking cognitive deficits through BESS, VOMS, and the impact test. At the bare minimum, and this is really important, if you're just doing Rivermead impact and having it interpreted by a medical neuropsychologist, that is enough. If it lands on an attorney's desk, the attorney can take that case with all those objective tests backed up by a medical neuropsychologist. The data is the data. And I know I've heard some doctors argue that, well, the defense side can argue the opposite of what your neuropsychologist says. Well, the data is the data. What does the published standard of care say in medical journals about that data? Okay, but what I will tell you, the doctors that are in my program doing the TBI protocol as it is laid out are getting more referrals because they're giving something to the personal injury market that most chiropractors do not know how to deliver. And I was talking to a doctor friend of mine, Dr. Ed, down here in South Florida, was talking to one of his personal injury buddies that he had a relationship with, doing a lot of business over a decade. Flat out told him, Ed, I can't send you any more cases because you're not screening my clients for a traumatic brain injury. So attorneys are starting to catch on. If you're not giving them this objective evidence for their cases, not only are you doing your patient a disservice because you're not giving them a deeper diagnosis of something that can cause long-term chronic, it's a long-term chronic illness is what a TBI is. It can lead to early onset dementia, Parkinson's disease, and Alzheimer's disease. So if you're not delivering this service to your patients, you're doing them a disservice. You're doing the attorneys that you work with a disservice because you're leaving this diagnosis possibly on the table. Not all of your patients are going to have a traumatic brain injury or concussion, but at least you're screening for it. And you're not going to get rich just billing all this stuff. This is not what this is about. Yes, you can bill for these services and generate some revenue from these tests, but the real value here is you're providing attorneys in your market with a service that most chiropractors think that they're doing, but they're not doing it at a level where the attorney can take that information interpreted by a medical specialist all the way and get policy limits from insurance companies who have a history of not paying claims. And claims are getting paid 6 weeks after the attorneys send the demand letter with a diagnosis of a TBI done correctly with an FDA-approved test approved by the appropriate medical specialist. Okay, so if you are in YouTube, like and subscribe to my video. I produce a long-form video every single week on some aspect of TBI to help you, doctors, providers, get your practice to that next level. Because if you're going to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result, you're going to be stuck and overwhelmed and frustrated. There are ways to do it better. You just have to learn and implement. You can go to a TBI conference, a TBI Med Legal in San Diego, but if you don't come home from a conference like that and implement anything, well, you've just learned some cool information, and Monday, when you get back from a conference like that, is going to be the same as the Monday before that, and the Monday before that. Through my mastermind doctors who have been doing this TBI protocol for years, and those mastermind doctors are all chiropractors. Now, they may employ spine surgeons, interventional pain docs, physical therapists, but they are chiropractors, and they still have to have their TBI screening test interpreted by the proper medical specialist to meet that Daubert challenge, help patients get better care, help attorneys maximize the value and get better outcomes for their clients, and help you get more referrals. I hope you got a lot out of today's presentation. Again, if you're in YouTube, like and subscribe to my channel to get little nuggets of information from my YouTube videos to help grow your personal injury business. I'm Mark Slater with Prime Spine Consulting. We'll see you next time.